So we're going to do division with decimal numbers, right? It is the same thing that dividing whole numbers. So it's not different from, just we add something, we're working with decimal points, right? So first one, we got 3 divided into 4.35. So if you saw the video of whole numbers or finding a quotient, I just gave you 4 steps, right? I'm just gonna tell you about it. I'm not gonna write it, so just pay attention to it. So in this case, we have a decimal point right here. We don't have any decimal point on the outside. So we actually, what we're gonna do is just we're gonna move this decimal point to the top, just straight up. If you want to erase it, you can erase it. So now you can see just a whole number for your sidekick. So we're working with whole numbers. So we are not working with decimal numbers anymore, right? So just copy it straight up. The same place what it is, just put it on top. Now use the 4 steps that I teach you on the other video that finding the quotient, right? So you have 3. How many times can you fit in 3 into 4? That'll be 1. Why? Because if you use the times table as 3, which is the easy way to divide, knowing your times table, you actually never will have to divide. And I mean never. It take a little bit of time, but if you don't know them, it's better that you just write them down and then you have no problems. So you have 1 times 3, you have it right here. That'll be 3. Next step is subtracting. Double checking that that subtraction, that number is smaller than the other one, that's the divisor, right? Why? Because I'm pulling down help or the other number, which is the first step. Now I have 13. So how many times can I fit in 3 into 13? I double check. It's 4 times. That's why you pull up or just copy the decimal point, so you know the place values are gonna be straight up. So you don't mess around with the place values. Because if you mess up the place values doing division of decimal numbers, you might have the whole number. You might have the numbers right, but the decimal point is incorrect. You're done, right? You cook. So now again, 4 times 3, that's 12. Subtract. 1 is more than 3. That's good. Pull down help. Pull down the next number. Now I have 15. 3 into 15. That's 5 times. 5 times 3. That's 15. So I got no reminder. So my answer will be 1.45. That's why we just put the decimal point on top. Let's do another one. So we got 10. We got 2 digits. Right? Again, you don't have a decimal point outside. You do inside. You just put it on top, and you're good. Now you start dividing whole numbers. If you don't, I'm not gonna write the times table as 10. That's an easy one. So 10 into 4, it doesn't fit. Just add that 0 there. So it makes sure we're making sure that you use the correct place value for your answer. Just use that 0, please. Please use it. You got 0. You got 4. When I subtract, that number has to be smaller than that one. I ask for help. Now 10 into 43. That'll be 4 times. 4 times 10. That'll be 40. That subtraction, my answer is 3. So I ask for help. Now 10 into 35, that'll be 3. 3 times 10, that's 30. I subtract, that's a 5, smaller than 10. So I ask for help, now I have 58. So 10 into 58, that'll be 5 times. 5 times 10, that's 50. When I subtract it, 8 is more than 10, so I go ask for help. 10 into 83, that'll be 8 times. So you got a remainder of 3. Okay? So that's how you do when you divide the whole numbers with decimal numbers. Now, let's see when you divide decimal numbers with decimal numbers. Okay? So let's say you have this number, right? Now we have decimal number on both sides, so we have to take those decimal point out of out of the two numbers. How? You start with the number outside. You're gonna move that decimal point all the way to the end of that number. As many times as you need, you're gonna just move it to your right, all the way to the end of that number. So instead of having 0.5 tenths, when I move that decimal point, now I have a 5. Now I have a whole number. Again, you have this decimal point right here. You got 0.5 tenths. We're going to move it all the way to the end of that number. All the way to the end of that number. So now I have 5. Now, this is the most important thing about it. As many times as you move that decimal point outside, you have to move it inside too. So I move it outside one time, you go inside one time, and then you pull up and just put it on top. Okay? Outside one movement, inside one movement. If outside I have to move it 2 times, you gotta move it inside 2 times. If you move it inside 3 times, you gotta move it inside 3 times. You always have to do the same thing in both sides. That's keeping the balance of the equation, okay? So now, once I do that, now I start dividing like I know how to divide using the first step. The first one is ask how many times can you fit in the number inside into, the number outside into the number inside, or the divisor into the number inside. Then you're going to multiply, then you're going to subtract, and then you're going to pull down the number. So the first same steps all the time. So you got 5 into 4, that's a 0, because you're not allowed to do it. You're going to add that 0 there. It's going to take out that place value, so it's making sure that the next number you use is where it belongs. So you have a 0. When you subtract, this number has to be smaller than that one, so that's good. Now you pull down one number. Now you have 49. So 5 into 49, that would be 9 times. 9 times 5, that's 45. When you subtract, 4 is smaller than 5, so that's good. You pull down the next number. 5 into 45, that's 9. 9 times 5, that's 45. Are you done? So your answer would be 9.9. And that's 0. You're just making sure that you use that 9 where you put that answer where it's supposed to be. Okay? It doesn't matter how many zeros you have on your left, it's not going to change the value. It looks ugly, but still 9.9, and your answer is going to be right. Okay. Let's do one more. Let's say you have this number. So again, let's do the rules, right? You're gonna move that decimal point all the way to the end of that number. So instead of having 0.4 thousandths, you're gonna end up having 4, just 4. And that times table is easier than work with thousands. So now you have 4. Now remember, how many times you move that decimal point? Okay, 1, 2, 3 times. That same amount of times that you move it outside, you have to move it in here too. So you gotta go 1, 2, 3 times, and then put it on top of the roof of the house, like I call it. Once you do that, you have just whole numbers, work with whole numbers, forget about the decimal point because it's already there. So now you can just work like you know how to divide. So how many times can you fit in 4 into 4? Only 1. Again, if you're having problems with the times table, you can write them next to the problem. It's gonna take you a little bit of time, but it's gonna make sure that you know your answer, and your answer will be right. Alright? So I'm just showing you how to do it. You can do it however you want to do it. And just it's easier if you practice your timetables so you can just know them, right? So now, once I got the 1 times 4, that'll be 4. I got a 0. Remember, that number has to be smaller than 4. So we're good. Now we move that 9. How many times can you fit in 4 into 9? That's 2 times. 2 times 4, that's 8. One of the advantages of having the timetables here is you don't have to do the calculation 2, 3, 4 times. So you have it here, so you can just use it as a reference, right? So I subtract, double check, that 1 is more than 4, we're good. Ask for help. 4 into 16, I have it here 4 times. 4 times 4, that's 16. Pull down the 8. 4 into 8, that's 2 times. 2 times 4, that's 8. Pull down the next number. 4 into 3, no. I'm not done. So I have a remainder of 3. And my answer will be 1,242. And my place value, and my decimal number, my decimal point, everything is already there. If I do that at the beginning, I don't have to do the nonsense, everything else. And the last one, let's say you have a decimal number outside, but you have a whole number inside. So you're still gonna have to move that decimal point from outside all the way to the end. But you don't see a decimal point in the number inside. All the whole numbers have a decimal numbers. I have a decimal point. It's just we don't use it. It's at the end, right? If you have 20, you say I have 20. You don't say you have 20.0, right? But it's always at the end. So you can just put it at the end. So you move it 2 times. So you gotta go 1, 2 times. And put that period on top. What happened with the missing numbers? Add zeros. And now you can just work with like a regular whole numbers. You got 2. How many times can you fit in 2 into 3? Only 1. Why? Because 1 times 2, that's 2. I subtract, double check that that number is more than 2. We're good. We ask for help. How many times can you fit in 2 into 14? That would be 7. 2 into 0, 0 times. 2 into 0, 0 times. Now you're done. You always have to work with all numbers that you have there until you're done with them. So now my answer would be 1,700. But that's how you do that. Peace.